All right, we are set to go now. Jessie Godderz, are you
The man, the
there?
myth, the legend, the face that runs the place, OVW, the face of Muscle Tech, the face of Netflix, Mr. Spectacular, Jessie Godderz, boom, and Jeff Tomko.
Well, what are some of the strangest injuries you've ever had come across?
When I first, so I amateur wrestled in high school and in Iowa, and there's a lot of good kids in Iowa that wrestle at a very young age, and then they get older and they're very strong and very knowledgeable, have a lot of hip control. When I first started out, I was just shooting it on people. They were sprawling, and I remember multiple occasions where I would get my shoulders dislocated because I would try to hold on to the back of their thigh, and the only point of any kind of give was the ball of my shoulder socket being pushed through my armpit. So that actually, later on in life came to light again with the violent movements of professional wrestling. So I've dislocated my shoulders, uh, not more so in training when I first started out. So then I got hip to things to stay away from and movements and violent movements and pantomiming a certain way how not to do it because of those injuries and occurrences of dislocating my shoulders. But other than that, like just like bumps and bruises, like throughout. I mean, again, like a little sprained ankle or like a knee deal for a little while. That's annoying. Like plenty of like sciatica and like pain in my lower back and neck and whatnot. But it's definitely real. I mean, you're getting car crashes every single night. You're going from 20, 30 miles an hour to a dead stop on a 2x20. And it's not ballet, as they say. It's not ballet. But other than that, I think I split my butt cheek open one time on a set of steel chairs or um, stairs going into the ring. Those big heavy stairs that are perforated that have the metal in it. You know what I'm talking about? I slid my backside across there and had a nice 3-inch gash. I think tried to glue it together, but it was too late. So the glue just like sat inside it and then it like stayed open. So it just healed that way. So it just got a wicked scar. And then I think I took a chair shot to the back of the head once that split my head open. That I have a scar on, but I can't see.
Like,
Nothing like, just chair shots to the back of the head. Those are always fun.
did you follow up the steps going into the ring, or was that just during one?
No, yeah, it was in the flow of, I think I got thrown and I tried to go over them and I skipped across them, and in the process of skipping across them, just like the where the meat met the metal, it decided to break the skin. So
Does the audience notice that, or you just got really play it off as hey, nothing happened here, guys? It's
yeah, I mean, I definitely felt it. I don't know to what
you're at the
degree.
point of your
It
career
really,
now
because
where
of
it's like if you separate a shoulder, it's like, oh, it's just a separated shoulder. Just
yeah.
put it back in a place. I'm ready to go. Or are there things where I can't make it today? It's that bad.
Uh, so I mean, fingers crossed. I haven't had anything like recently. I did feel like your body, at this age and whatnot. But even when I dislocated my shoulder, unless it was like debilitating, like yeah, you just keep going. Especially if you're inside a match and like you gotta get business over and you need to make sure that the agenda kind of gets sought out and accomplished. Because there's every match. There's a reason and a purpose for everything. You don't have to go over. You don't have to win to get over and impress the crowd and stuff like that. But you definitely have to make sure that whatever is being sought out gets accomplished by the end of it. So if you and I were competing and I needed to make you look really good, all the while staying strong myself and still being myself, obviously I could do a lot of flexing, turn to the crowd. You could roll me up and it'd be a 1, 2, 3 out of the blue, completely nowhere. And somebody that was just off the street could potentially win something like that, and just being the element of surprise and being duped, just like anything with it when it comes to an underdog, like there's still a slim chance, which is why you still have to compete, whether that's in any sport, so, but yeah, when it comes to injuries and whatnot, not too many, but I just gauge it, move around, feel it, and then just work around it. Cause you're never 100%, when you're training and you're actually on television all the time, you're probably never 100%.
Well, how much of your training now is not just in the weight room or in the ring, but now just in the ice bath or in some type of recovery mode? just to get ready for the evening?
Surprisingly enough, like I don't do any ice baths or red light laser therapy or saunas, steam rooms, any kind of aquatic rehabilitation stuff, any kind of flexing, or I mean flexing, stretching, stuff like that. I used to swim a little bit. No yoga, none of that stuff. I used to do yoga. To be completely honest, like the vast majority of my career has been solely bodybuilding training, but with full range of motion, like being able, and granted, like doing deep squats and stuff like that might not be beneficial, but inside the wrestling ring, it's completely relevant because it's functional. You know what I mean? And like having very healthy length or long muscle is going to then correlate to being flexible and have mobility inside the wrestling ring. And then like just keeping my wind up, like I still don't do too much cardio, like, literally at all. And like I haven't my whole life. I might need to start probably a little bit, but yeah, the wind and like the actual endurance just from wrestling training, not training, but the actual shows that we have and the different matches that I have just keeps me in shape for it as well. But yeah, there's definitely a difference between a pull apart that lasts 2 minutes that you could be completely exhausted and gassed from, to a 20-minute, with a commercial break, or two commercial breaks, and then like a run in at the end. You would think the 20-minute match would actually be more taxing, but you'd be surprised when you're going. It's almost like amateur wrestling where you're giving it all for every second of that 120 seconds. You know what I mean? Whereas the other one, it's just more creative liberty and telling a story. So,
Well, how much has your training changed from bodybuilding to wrestling?
uh, because it's the way that it kind of got me to the show, to the dance, I haven't really deviated much from it at all. Cause like, if you look at my physique inside, the wrestling, professional wrestling ring, other than maybe Rob Terry, there's a couple other ones, like they're not very symmetrical. It's not, and you know what I mean? Like it is a, aesthetic, physique based business where you have to look good. But I haven't really changed too much. Like I still have back day, arm day, a chest day, leg day. I used to split up, hamstrings and quads even to some degree and whatnot. Now not so much. I try to just train legs twice and within a 7-day period, if that makes sense, like fresh off of a rest day or something like that. And I could probably push a little bit harder, but as life goes on and whatnot, and more responsibility continues to pile up, it's definitely getting significantly harder to find time to do that. And you just have to make time, not make an excuse on it for sure. But still doing the same splits, not doing push pulls or anything like that, but like one body part a day. And I just try to completely annihilate it. So I'm sore. I still love the feeling of being sore. Like, okay, being sore to me has always been, okay, I did enough to break it down. You know what I mean? And it's not like the next day, it's like the second day and the third day. Like you can really find out how good of a workout you really had. And then also where your nutrition and supplementation is as well, and how sore and how long that actually lasts for.
Has anyone in the business said to you, hey, you got to change a little bit to a wrestling type of or workout or training program? You just said, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know my body.
Yeah. Now, with us being like we're our own company, we're our own brand. So if we ever get brought in and have a contract with any federation, regardless of who it is, they see that they can make money off of you and your look at that present time. I have yet to ever be told what to eat, how to train. Others might have been, not to my knowledge. Like the vast majority of the people, like they like you for one thing or another. Whether it's your sheer wrestling ability, natural talent, promo skills, like bravado, confidence, machismo, whatever it is, you got what they're looking for, and they probably don't make you try to change too much. But I can't be, Mr. Spectacular if I'm Mr. Fat-tacular too. That's probably fair to say.
How do you become the face of wrestling and the voice of wrestling? How do you combine the two?
Self-proclaimed. Just say it. Just perception is reality. You just continue to say it until it continues to stick. So then when somebody actually researches it, your name pops up, and then it's the first thing on Google or DuckDuckGo, depending upon how you get your information. But yeah, just continue to say it because nobody else is saying it. So why not me? You know, that's as far as I'm concerned. I think it's hilarious. And then I haven't been corrected. That's for sure. So so that's just going for broke, man. Just going for broke until somebody takes the title away from me of the face of OVW, the face of Muscle Tech, the face of Netflix, and I'll take them on. So is that not going to be something that they're just going to take from me willingly?
Is there a skill involved? Is there a practice involved to own a room verbally? Just take it over? Or is this something that
No.
in high school or grade school?
What's that?
I said
What's
something
that?
that's just natural, or is it something you learned in grade school? Were you like the king of the debate team as well? Or
Actually, I wanted to become a lawyer, sincerely, when I was a kid, but I think I also like just the human psychology of the way people think or come to decisions or conclusions on things or what they were thinking in times of when you really get tested as a person, you know, because there's a lot of good people and they're only good because they've never been faced with a situation where they could have done something bad. It's almost like oh God, I don't know if it's Jocko Willett or who says it, but or Greg or Jordan Peterson or somebody just in the sense of like, you want to be a dangerous man that's kind as opposed to just being kind because you don't know how to be dangerous. You're not a threat to anybody. If there's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu master that could literally, fold you up in 10 seconds and he's just as kind as the accountant that doesn't have a clue in the world how to pick up a dandelion, and wouldn't hurt a fly. If they're both considered a good person, it's like, yeah, well, he's a dangerous man deciding to be good, whereas he really doesn't have an option or a choice. So the psychology of stuff, is intriguing to me, when it comes to people's minds. So that's why I wanted to kind of go into that profession. I did think about different debate teams and stuff like that. Never got into it. Was in a lot of other. I was in show choir. I was in choir. I was a captain of the wrestling team, captain of the track team. Played baseball. Hit a grand slam in high school. Went on to become the youngest natural professional bodybuilder in the country, and that was all just to like kind of show people, because everybody just accused me of being on PEDs and stuff like that and like cheating my way into it. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like how do I find an outlet to kind of put people in, like shut them up, And I found the NANBF, which is North American Natural Bodybuilding Federation, and turned pro into the WNBF, which is World Natural Bodybuilding Federation. So, but that's that path. But when it comes to debates and stuff like that, I would like to, as long as everybody's facts and the facts that they're going to kind of spit back, you're in a good spot. You know what I mean? You can kind of defend yourself and then make the best decision or understanding of.
when was the last time you got nervous in front of an audience?
Oh, it comes and goes, if that makes any sense. Because it could to say that it doesn't happen every single night or every single time that I go out and wrestle would be a farce. Like, I don't think that'd be a true statement, but I don't really give it validity and let it fester and grow to a magnitude of like being debilitating, because I am still confident in my abilities. I do know that it's not necessarily like riding a bike, but I have a lot of confidence in the talent that I have, and I think that's when you can start stacking that experience. That's where the confidence kind of comes from. But when it comes to being nervous, just more so nervous in the sense of like, hey, I hope something doesn't go wrong. I say a little quick prayer too, to kind of just more so stay healthy. That's what I don't necessarily care like how it gets depicted, how I want it to be received well and have elicit true emotion, my performance, and but the nervousness, like I have a lot of confidence in my abilities, so not too often.
So do you have to practice it? Do you just wing it on the fly? How do you
How do you
walk in the ring and just own the microphone?
The microphone? Yeah, that having a direction for sure, having things mapped out, knowing where you're going to go with it. knowing what the business is that you're trying to get across. Because at the end of the day, like as long as you get that message across and it's crystal clear, to the point to where like a 5-year-old could understand it, because that's what's needed. Attention spans are very short. Having pauses, breaks in speech, emphasizing words, and then making sure that you enunciate and make sure that it's just crystal clear. I think you can't go wrong. This isn't the 80s and 90s anymore where professional wrestlers are just, all hopped up on everything and screaming into a microphone with their blood pressure through the roof. You definitely have to tell a story, and get people to emotionally invest into your character, and then also the story and the business that you're trying to get across. So, but having a clear path of understanding of how to start and close out what you're going to say. Having catchphrases is great, which is why The Rock, Stone Cold, handful of other professional wrestlers are so good at it. Because if they ever get lost, they can kind of pepper in a couple of those. People can get behind them. It's a real good feel good. Because in professional wrestling, the whole point is to make a connection with the audience. So if I'm sitting here talking, and I always start out my promos by saying, as I was saying, at the beginning of every promo, everybody's going to know that I'm going to say that, and they can actually join in. So hate me or love me, they can actually start saying that and have that connection with me. If it's the same cadence, the same words, and the same order, they can then be a part of the show. And that's where that connection can not only like grow and prosper, but then you can build off of that. Because now if I said, as I was, and then everybody says saying, and I stop and they all say it and I don't, I can tell them to shut up, or I can say it with them, or somebody can cut me off, somebody else's music can start. It makes everybody mad because that's a feel good moment. And then now everybody's attention turns to the person that just came through the curtain, and they can now hate them just because they messed up something that was like a feel good moment that they were connected to. So the psychology of all of this, that's like professional wrestling, like year 10, you know what I mean? Like year 5, like definitely down the road. So there's a lot of psychology into everything that everybody does.
So what you're saying then is if you came out with something new every single match, people wouldn't know where to begin, where you're ending, and you know what, you're just 20 different characters and people don't know what to expect. This way, they're like, hey, okay, now he's going to say the same thing. Love it.
Absolutely.
But we know what he's going to do.
Yeah, imagine if The Rock came out and said, "Can you smell what the potato was saying?" They'd be like, "What?" You know what I mean? Or they don't even, if he doesn't even say that, like he doesn't even say, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?" He says, "I have a fax printer at home." And you're like, "What?" And then the next time he's like, "Oh man, I love lamps." Like every time
I was just saying that too. I was just thinking
beat you to it.
So what do you rather hear? Do you rather hear the audience cheer along with you, or do you just rather hear the jeers and boos and F you? What's spectacular? What do you rather hear?
Everything's situational. Everything is definitely situational. There's good guys that can be in a situation where they do something that's a little underhanded or undermined to try and win. Because that's, at the end of the day, the whole point is winning matches, holding championships, and winning, titles, and being the face of a promotion. The reason why I say that is I hold the most prestigious heavyweight. It's the OVW National Heavyweight Championship at OVW. So I am the face of the brand. No, it's uncontested. It's undisputed. Nobody can say that they're the face, because I literally hold the most prestigious, highest title at OVW. And that's something that I obviously truly care about. But when I first started, if I told you, think of the general population, think of primetime television, the common viewer, the casual viewer of wrestling or just TV in general. If I told you there was a guy from Hollywood, California, pretty good looking, jacked, flexes all the time, how appealing is that individual or character to the average American that, unfortunately, with America being 80% obese or overweight, probably can't connect too well with that character and probably doesn't like that individual. So as soon as I come out, I'm eliciting a response where people probably don't like me too much. And then if I play in or lean into that even more, saying things, conducting myself, using mannerism, flexing, doing push-ups in the ring while my competitor's down, or I just hit him in the back of the head, something dastard, uh, or underhanded, then they're going to hate me even more. However, if the night before or that same show, I get jumped by two guys and I start fighting back, I'm already the underdog because it's 2 versus 1. I'm not flexing. I'm just all strictly business. Everything is situational. Same guy, same character, same from the same place, but now the situation's changed. And people can get behind me because it was 2 versus 1. And I don't care how, if you like somebody or if you don't, if you see one guy fighting two guys at a bar, the one guy that's fighting for his life is the underdog. It's you can't deny it. So there's already an essence built in of just the psychology of the match that you have not necessarily root for him, but you understand that he's fighting from underneath. You see what I mean? And that now imagine those two guys that he's fighting. He finally does tag one, but then the other one hits him from behind. You're like, oh man, he was doing so good. And then he just got hit from behind. And then the other guy started, wailing on him or wailing on me. So everything's situational. What I actually enjoy is when people cheer. The vast majority of my career, my entire life since 2009, everybody's booed me for sure. And you almost have to break. It's like when you're so good at being bad, people are already like right there cheering for you, and you kind of just need to tip the other way. And now those same situations where I would cheat, undercut, do something dastardly, I'm being wholesome, playing by the rules, trying to fight fair, and winning matches by going over clean. So
How cool was it that Netflix now has a piece of it and has your story and everyone else?
it's I'm over the moon about it. It's definitely surpassed everybody's wildest dreams and expectations. Greg Whiteley and his team, his production team, the guys that like talk about true professionals. There's a reason why he's already won Emmys for Cheer and Last Chance U. He came in. What he says and what we've heard is like this is his favorite project that he's actually worked on, because the other ones, the individuals that he was dealing with are a little bit younger, like in high school, college age ranges. Well, we're all individuals that are 20, 30, 40 years old, some of them, that have families, that have lived life, that are, have a little bit more meat on the bone when it comes to our stories. And with that, like people, we have families, we have financial struggles, we have relationship trials and tribulations, we have, bumps and bruises when it comes to the pain that people are in. And Shira's like story when it came from him coming from another country and whatnot. Greg and his team and the show Wrestlers is like, if anybody is even just a casual viewer, like I would implore you and encourage you to no end to just watch the first episode. Because I guarantee you'll be hooked. It's 7 episodes that are about an hour long, and watch it all the way through, because like it'll give you a whole new outlook and respect for professional wrestling and what we actually do and sacrifice to continue keeping the dream alive. And again, like going back to the psychology of humans, as far as I'm concerned, from living life as long as I have, people die twice. The first time when they give up on their dreams and what they actually wanted to do, and then when they actually leave this earth and meet their maker, whoever that is, respectfully. But the time from when you give up on your dreams to when you actually leave earth, that's a lot of living left. So what kind of life is being lived during that time, and how hollow is it when you're watching us? Like, we haven't given up on that dream, and you get behind the characters, you get behind the people like Shira, and Haley J and Cash Flow, myself, and a handful of others, Eric Darkstorm and stuff like that. Like, because these guys, like, they're putting everything out there, like they're sacrificing a lot to try and make it. And then there's other characters, the owners that come in, it's been so well received. I've had tons of positive feedback from it. If there was ever a show that especially, granted we're back in the beginning of the week and whatnot, but come the weekend, like you can easily shoot through it. Like there's a lot of people that I got text messages from, saying like, oh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, but I only have a couple more episodes left. And they end up going through the entire season in one day, you know, because you just binge watch the entire thing. So it's awesome, and I'm glad to have the platform for sure.
Is that one misconception about wrestling? Is when I watched it, is when you see everyone on stage on Friday night, Saturday night, hey, you're all individuals, you're all going for the title, you're all going to bash each other's skull in. But behind the scenes, you guys are all a brotherhood, you guys are a team, you guys are putting everything together, helping with the ring. I mean, going through the moves, helping somebody if somebody's hurt. I mean, is that something that nobody really knows or really appreciates as much as when they do watch the documentary?
Yeah, yes, I think as social media has continued to grow, the pulling back the curtain on professional wrestling and like the light and the performance aspect of it has been shown more and more and more. Back in the olden days, like uh, obviously, if you saw the best hero and good guy going to IHOP or Denny's or somewhere for breakfast with the biggest villain, the biggest bad guy in the morning before the wrestling match, and you were a kid that was a fan of theirs back in the 80s and 90s, you'd scratch your head and be like, well, how are they friends if they're going to, you know, in this death feud where they're going to fight each other, you know, for the
Yeah, that never
championship?
really happened in the 80s though, did it?
What's that? No, absolutely
That
not.
never
No,
happened. It is.
no, 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 because they protected it, and it was easier to do at that point in time. Now with I mean, the cameras were far and few between, you know, it was for television, and now everybody has one in their hand on their phone. So things that can get documented, and then with us trying to do self promotion and photos and whatnot, and then obviously with this show kind of pulling back, like because like you said, you're seeing these characters from inside the wrestling ring go back through the curtain, and like we're lighting the curtain on fire with this show. Like you're now going into the locker room with us, you're watching us get undressed or dress back up in our street clothes, go into our cars, and now you're coming home with us as well. All of this stuff is shown on the show, you know, like it's completely lit on fire, and you're seeing the underbelly of professional wrestling through OVW's eyes, you know, or through the doors of OVW. So in present day, the fact that we have to get along 1000%, because one, this is still a business, but two, we all need each other to do all of those tasks that need to be done prior to us even having a show. Television is a little bit different because obviously the ring is already set up and whatnot. But we have to change out the training canvas to the TV canvas. And yeah, there's some greenhorns, if you will, and some young bucks that are coming in that get that role just to kind of blaze their path through everything. But when it comes to, if you and I are making money with one another because of our feud and the stories that we're telling, I want you to be as healthy and safe as possible, because we need to kind of stretch this out, and who knows how long we can do it for. Does that make sense? Like perfect example. Perfect example. There is no Joker without Batman. There's no Batman if there's no Joker. It's the way, it's good versus evil, and that's the stories that we're trying to tell. And that's why, you know, there's no Rocky if there's no Drago. There's no Drago if there's no Rocky, which is he's the biggest baby face. That entire thing is a wrestling storyline. In Star Wars, same thing. Good versus evil. It's a and the psychology is the same. In the beginning, looks competitive. Oh no, something happened and the baby face, the hero's down. What's going to happen? He has to fight his way back up. There's a big flurry. Here's the comeback. What's the finish? The good guy prevails, or in Star Wars, Darth Vader grabs you, puts you out, and it's over. And you're like, and you have that yucky feeling in your body, and you're just like, So you need to watch the next movie because you're hoping that things turn around for the good guys. You see what I mean? It's psychology. And again, the psychology of professional wrestling, that is what kind of doesn't get the credit that it's actually, it like the entertainment world kind of looks at us as like the redheaded stepchild. No offense to anybody that's redhead. I'm just saying, like, the entertainment space kind of looks as professional wrestling as almost not necessarily less than, but somehow less than, you know. It's like we're doing the things that people from Cirque du Soleil are doing when it comes to athletic ability, as well as soap stars, you know, every single morning on the shows that they're having on daytime. you know? All the while, we have to be in shape. We have to be our own managers, our own nutritionists, our own actors, our own stunt coordinators. All of these things have to come in perfect harmony for us to be a character that's even being able to make a draw on television. So, yes, we all need each other. To answer your question, we all have to be friends with one another, and we want everybody to be as healthy and as safe as possible for sure.
I mean, did you know all these layers coming into wrestling, that this was all going to be part of it? Or did you just come in thinking, I jump in the ring, I say a few lines, and hey, I beat the bad guys?
to to say no. When I was a kid and I watched professional wrestling and I saw Ultimate Warrior run down there, shake the ropes, and Hulk Hogan and Sting, absolutely not did I know that it's such a multifaceted profession. You know what I mean? There's so many different aspects, and the psychology behind this is just crazy. Um, so to say that somebody else would, I understand why they don't, um, for sure. So, but yeah, I think wrestlers did a great service for not only OVW but wrestling as a whole. You know what I mean? So
With that, how do you maintain your nutrition when you're on the road, when you've got 24 different things to do in a day and a weekend? How do you make sure you've got your 12 o'clock meal, you've got your supplements, you got a blender to take with you?
yeah,
How
right.
do you work all that in?
I wish I was more. I wish I could sit here and tell you that I was more regimented and I was, I packed my meals and I had my six pack bags and stuff like that, and prepped everything. But with the real world and life, I just make as healthy as decisions as I possibly can, with what's accessible to me. I think people make a lot of excuses when it comes to food choices when you're on the road, and it definitely shows. Different venues, different federations have different budgets when it comes to catering and whatnot. If it's me just being on the road, I can go to a gas station and get, 2 packets of hard boiled eggs. And we all know that that's about as healthy as you could possibly eat, and you're not getting energy drinks, you're not getting pop, you're not getting chips, you're not getting pizza, you're not getting fried food, you're not getting anything else. There's protein bars in there just as much. There's, those cheese packets, with, uh, almonds or peanuts and stuff like that you can get in like cranberries and stuff. There's definitely still healthy choices. You just got to look a little bit harder. And that's all I can do, and then when I go out to eat, I just try to make sure that making healthy decisions there. I don't really, my body, I cannot eat bad food. You just can't. Like once you stop doing it and you try to pull yourself away, I mean, there's a lot of food places that it'll just make me sick, and it's so traumatic that like I have no interest in ever going there ever again. So it's pretty easy not to go to some of these fast food places and stuff and eat as healthy as I possibly can.
There's your headline right there. Gas station protein is a key to Mr. Spectacular's physique.
It is. No, you're right. Because this and or just go, like the same time it takes to go into an Arby's or McDonald's or whatever and order and sit down and eat and da, da, da. You could have walked through a grocery store and just grabbed a bag of rotisserie chicken. Tell me that it's not the same time and go to self checkout and be out in the car and be eating it.
Buy a bag of
And
napkins.
what's that?
Buy a bag of napkins to go with it, and you're
Yeah,
good to go.
yeah. Get some ketchup and mustard and it's the same price. What are they going to be? 8, 9, $10? You know what I mean? Find a Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, whatever, meets your fancy. I just rather go to a grocery store and grab food. And worst case scenario, I'm at a gas station, just make super healthy choices. So
What's the best piece of advice someone gave you about the whole wrestling journey?
when I first, so I was living in Huntington Beach, California. I just got off the show of Big Brother, and that was a time where Spencer Pratt and Heidi Pratt were actually kind of making their way up as like a villain in reality television, like one of the top heels. And I saw what they were doing, and I'm like, okay, well, I can either like kind of rein this in because of the how I was showcased on national television and kind of embrace it and take the ball and run with it. Um, or I can try and fight City Hall and try to be a good baby face and whatnot. But the reason why I say that is I knew I could leverage what I had when it came to the little bit of star power coming off the show. But it was just like, okay, what direction do I go? I was training at Gold's Gym Venice, and somehow, if you put it into the universe, I met Ric Flair in Gold's Gym Venice while I was there. And I was just like, if there was ever, like, I was leaving and he was coming in, he just said, "Hey, Mr. Ric Flair," I'm like, I was 22 at the time. I'm like, "Is there any advice you could give me to get into professional wrestling?" He's like, "Well, if you're serious about it, go to FCW, which was Florida Championship Wrestling, that was out in St. Pete, Tampa area in Florida, and go to the WWE's developmental school." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I was done with Big Brother, I think, in like August, September in 2008. And by February, so between that time and February 2009, I was already in Florida, shipped my Harley out to me from California, and went to the school, and I just did what I was told. Pretty simple. I mean, who else would you want to get advice from and how to get into professional wrestling other than Ric Flair of all people? So as soon as he told me, I just, okay, nothing else needs to be said. He told me exactly, how to build the airplane. Just go to this place and you can build the airplane, So that's what I did.
Have you ever spoken to him?
So yeah, because he was at Impact while I was there. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy to say that, guys that I looked up to when I was a kid, like Sting, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Kurt Angle, just a ton of guys were literally work colleagues. Like these were guys that I rubbed elbows with on a daily basis, on the same roster. Like we're on the same t-shirts and stuff like that. It's pretty surreal, to be completely honest with you. And like the ride's still going, and we're trying to just make the best of it, because that's what we're trying to do at OVW. And I think we definitely can, with the exposure that we have, is make OVW the third biggest wrestling promotion in the country, in the world, for
How
sure.
much has that taken off since Netflix?
I mean, we've had every single show has been sold out. Every single one, every single TV, all of our pay-per-views. The show that we just had on Friday in Lexington was completely packed. And we were selling tickets that were more expensive than AEW. So we were selling tickets that were like $50, and it's surreal, for sure. And there was also just the opportunities that it brought, and all the eyes, because there's also venture capitalists that see, something like a show like that and have intrigue in it because of their business acumen and their beliefs of being able to kind of turn a ship around, and having the money and the funds to be able to do so. So that has brought just a whole plethora of interest when it came to the financial side for the owners.
How important is it for you just to expand your talents, not just to be the OVW champion, but hey, to continue being on Big Brother, Whacked Out Sports, be host of everything else? How important is it just to keep spreading yourself out?
It's been my motive the entire time. Like I wanted to be the one. I've tried to position myself where I'm in the driver's seat at all times, in conducting business for myself and my brand solely, and specifically just for myself. So by me being able to be in the driver's seat at OVW, I'm on a live weekly televised show that's airs and has lineage and a history that runs so deep in professional wrestling. There's guys that are, making millions of dollars with contracts in the WWE that started out in the same building that I'm in currently right now, still helping and continuing trying to grow. The reason why I say that, though, is with that comes the exposure and then opportunities, like you were saying, from Whacked Out, that'll hopefully, fingers crossed, be coming out on Tubi here pretty soon. And that opportunity, I mean, I have a comic book that I was also in because of OVW. I continue to get to hone my craft of continuing to be acting, staying in shape. All of these things completely encapsulate. It's just such a conglomerate of different roles in entertainment, but because you can still see me in real time from a couple of days ago, if not the day before, in any kind of photos or updated promos, there's a lot of people that are actors out in California that like to send a promo shot that was from 10 years earlier. I can show them something that literally was just aired on live television that Thursday, whether it's Friday or Wednesday, of what I look like, what kind of shape I look like. And then also representing obviously muscle tech still in present day, that's helped my physique. We haven't even talked or touched base too much on supplements, but for the last year and a half, like I can almost attribute all of like my peace of mind in supplementation. It makes it so much easier when I don't have to stress about where I'm getting proteins from, when I know that, and we have like creatine chews now and all of this stuff that we can definitely get into, and like their burn IQ and their euphoric. And I'm sure you obviously know very full well of just the name of Muscle Tech. It was one of the biggest brands when I first started even bodybuilding. It's like uh, Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman were going at each other with the Muscle Tech and BSN brands. But anyways, yeah, this vehicle and platform then also was appealing to even the likes of just the giant Netflix. And our story was then being able to be told through OVW, and it's awesome because all of these opportunities have come from it, and I don't take that lightly. And I also know that because of my appeal, there's a lot of cross pollination for other uh, different, not necessarily demographics, but different pools or pods of communities when it comes to reality television, acting, that acting world, being in movies and stuff, and obviously then professional wrestling and bodybuilding. Like all of these things. There's like 5 huge industries that I'm trying to juggle and have a toe in the water. So, but everything complements everything else, and I'm sure one project obviously helps kind of go into the next one too. So I don't take it lightly, and I just try to be as best as I can at all times. When they say jump, my biggest advice to anybody, if anybody tells you to jump, don't say how high. Jump as high as you possibly can and try to knock it out of the park, because then they can rely on you, and they know that when you get an opportunity, you're going to make the most of it.
Now, when I threw that blender question out earlier, I thought you were going to run with the whole Muscle Tech thing.
Yeah. Well, it shakes so easy. I don't even need a blender, so I'm good. Like there's some proteins that a little bit rough, but no, I love these blenders that they give us. Actually have a filter in the top, or like a that built in. This guy right there. So it has. See that light.
Everything here. The last question, you just touched on it a little bit. For Mr. Spectacular, Jessie Godderz, what are 5 tips to building a brand?
Be the loudest mouth. Promote yourself at every social media outlet and platform that you possibly can. Whatever you have the actual energy for. Use Chat GPT. Use some sort of AI robot to set up a schedule. If this is something that you're actually sincerely serious about, and getting your name out there, you got to put the legwork in, especially now. There's so many kids and there's so many brands and there's so many influencers, there's so many creators. And don't think that just because you don't have this massive following, with millions of actual followers, that you're not attractive to a company, whether it's a supplement company or a brand that you actually like. It's because you are. There's micro influencers that maybe have less than 1,000 people, but those 1,000 people, 100 of them are putting a comment on every post because they actually genuinely care about that one person. And so I would just post as often as you can, or just set up a schedule, because it gets time consuming, and that's the biggest thing. So always be producing content. I still am a pretty personal, or a private person, when it comes to my private life. And I try to keep that like a divide for them. And it's tough, cause I'm a proud dad, and I have a great relationship. But the Spectacular brand it's not conducive. So find out what you're trying to get across. Keep the colors the same. There's tons of different tutorials. I'm sure there's one of those books that's like, how to business for dummies or something like that, those yellow paperback books, like home construction for dummies and stuff like that. I guarantee you there's like influencers for dummies or something like that. So get books, read, follow people like Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Brad Lee, individuals that are just massive influencers when it comes to the business sense. Alex Hormozi is just huge. And the reason why is because it'll change your brain and the way you think about stuff and like what you can actually make money off of. I think what's that? At least 2 or 3 right there. And it just enjoy it, find your niche and stick to it. Try, don't be a fisherman one day and then be a painter the next day. Not saying that you can't do both, but if you're going to do it, make sure you have enough that you actually have a following from each community, because that's the biggest thing. And try to just have my biggest thing is posting one time and it going to as many platforms as possible, because then at least you can knock out a couple other things in one foul swoop. So, but just planning for it all. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that helps. Don't give up. That is one thing, if you take somebody that posts 20 times, but they're done after a year, the success that they're going to have is going to be far less than somebody that posts 10 times for 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of people that think, not necessarily myself, but even artists, musicians, if you will, are overnight success. They're not. There's a lot of people that put a lot of hours, 10,000 hours into something that you don't even see. You just get to see the highlight reel when they actually make it. So do something and have like a 4 or 5, 10-year plan to continue to pursue it. Don't quit when the road gets rocky. Oh, I mean, because even on podcasts, I think you only have to have 20 podcasts to be within the top 1%. So the bar for being an expert at something is so low. If you just put in the time aspect of it, not necessarily even the creativity or the amount of sheer volume, but just the continued time. If I do one punch for 10 years, like you'd probably be afraid of me for that one punch. But if I work on 40 punches, in one day, you're like, well, I bet you're not very good at any one of them, so bring it on. But if I only worked on one punch for 5 years, you'd be like, well, if he hits me with this one punch, we're going to be hurting. So I just, the time, don't let people stop you. Allocate a huge chunk of time to it.
Got it. What did I miss?
I mean, yeah, I hope everybody got some value out of this. And, I have a book coming out that's literally, the title is As I Was Saying. It kind of just goes through just my life and what I've learned, because I'm a kid from Iowa, a small kid from Northern Iowa. I mean, I grew up with 54 people in my senior class and 3 towns put together. That was 3 towns put together, and I had 54 people in my senior class. I remember writing Babes and Waves. I'm moving to California in everybody's yearbook and people laughing at me. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And it actually started because I saved up enough money and I did it. Careful what you wish for, or just be very mindful of what you wish for, because it can definitely come true. Like when, I really want to get more into manifesting outcomes, because it's in multiple different aspects and activities and events in my life. I have actually already foreseen an outcome and anticipated or wanted something, and then it comes to fruition. So it's definitely real. And, that's why I say, kind of just plan for it and make sure you're planning for the right stuff. Don't have a victim mentality, because nobody's going to give you anything in this world. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, how big you are, how small you are. Nobody can take away time that you put towards something. And if you don't quit, you're never losing. If you don't give up, when you give up, that's when it's all over. And that's why I say, when you die on your dream, you're not off this earth yet. You haven't met your maker. So, but hopefully this is somewhat helpful. In the book, I talk about a handful of things. Having kids changes everything. You almost want to parent everybody. I've owned a couple small businesses, have 88 employees, hired all of them, provided for all of them and their families. it's a lot of responsibility, and to whatever capacity and whatever platform I have, I hope I just give value to some degree to the people that are watching and listening. So I
Most
appreciate
proud of? Are you most proud of the titles, the shows, the notoriety, or taking that first step out of Iowa?
that's a lot. That's a great question. I would say I'm sincerely most proud of my like the little humans that my kids are turning into, like all these other things aside, like I want to be a parent that when my kids are 20 and 30 years old, like they want to hang out with dad, and that's I want to have a good enough relationship, because all this other stuff is just hoopla. Like if Mike Tyson can sell and give away all of his titles and belts and stuff like that, and he says like they don't mean nothing to him, they might mean something to somebody else. um that really spoke volumes to me. It's like, good, what are you doing now? you know it's the journey. What I mean, it's the person that you turn into. And yeah, I'd say my kids, though. That's what I'm most proudest of. But the step out of Iowa was a big one. But and I don't know how to say this, Jeff, because it's like I can't really everything that I've done too is almost like a, I don't want to swear on here, but I'll show you MFer type of mind mentality. When I was like 20, when I moved out of Iowa, when I started bodybuilding, it was because of having to prove myself and put somebody in their place and show them that I was right and they were wrong. You know, when I moved to California, it was because my girlfriend at the time, her mom said, "You're not moving to California. You're never going to move to California." That night, I went home, packed up my stuff, and I moved to California. That night, December 20th, that night, I moved to California
Where'd you sleep the next night?
in my car. And the reason why I say this is that decision was like naive, ignorant. I was young. When you're young, you can do anything. Like I can live in my car, I could still do it now, but I have a family. I have a little 4-year-old and little 3-year-old that are looking up at me with like little puppy dog eyes, like, "Hey, where are we getting our next meal at? Dad's got to be a little bit more responsible." There's a lot more responsibility when life starts to compile. Like the compound effect is real in life as a man. You know what I mean? Not saying as a female that it's not too, but it's unforgiving life. So all of that's in the book, though. I'm super stoked for it. But yeah, it's heavy stuff.
All right, Jesse, that's the last question. Done.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.